Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. So part 2 of the Wilton Vise restoration, and we're getting ready to go ahead and try to get this thing finished up, put all back together, get it painted and looking good. So in this episode we'll be doing exactly that. We'll be reassembling the vise, giving it a good new paint job, and just finishing it out. So let's get going. So before I give it a paint job, I actually want to get some of the pieces put back together before we start putting paint, particularly the tail end down here, where we got the little part that goes in that holds the nut, because I don't want to paint this in 2 pieces, because it's really, when it's finished, it needs to look like one piece. So just like before, we took this out, we're going to put it back in. It's held in place with some pins. I did kind of just hit this on the Scotch-Brite wheel here and just kind of polish that up so I get a good nice fit, and as you can see, that fits together real nicely. And I'm going to hold it up to the end, and we'll go ahead and get these pins lined up, and I'm going to start my pin in. I'm not going to go all the way with it until we get the other piece in, but I do want to go ahead and get them started. Same thing on this side. You know, that's kind of loose. Have to knock that one back out just a little bit. I'm not crazy about this pin being as loose as it is. So what I think I'm going to do is take a center punch and put some little dimples in here, which will kind of, if you look, you can kind of see where this was knurled originally around here to kind of help it grip in there. And I'm going to do the kind of the same little trick here, but I'm going to put some dimples in there that will hopefully just expand that metal out just enough that it'll hold that in place. All right, so I've just got a regular center punch here. I'm going to put this in here. We're just going to put some dimples around this. Just kind of rock around in random places. And again, that will raise just a little bit of a burr on this and make it just a little bit bigger, and hopefully hold it in place a little bit better than what it is. So hopefully you can see here now, I've just put some dimples around that. And again, what that does is that just kind of puts a little raised burr on there. It's going to make that a little bit tighter fit when we press it back in. Let's give it a try. All right. So next thing I want to do is go ahead and put the nut in here. And that should, those pins should just drive right into that nut and capture it in place. All right, so now the nut is stuck in there, and there's really the nut itself, I don't know if you noticed that, but there's some little recesses in here that those go up into that keep that from twisting. Really all those pins are doing is just kind of holding it in place. There's really not a lot of pressure pushing on it one way or the other. It's just really just kind of keep it from spinning in the vise and to kind of hold it in place, and that looks good. So the next thing we're going to do is, you know, this had an end cap, and we're going to go ahead and knock that back in. And to do that, I'm going to use a little block of wood. That looks pretty darn good. Just to make sure my vise, my jaw goes in or my screw goes in. It screws in. And let's just go ahead and dry assemble this. Good, that's a nice fit there. The screw will actually come in from the end here. I'm not going to put it all the way in right now because it'll be in the way for painting. All right, next step here is do a little masking on this to get it ready for painting, and we should be ready to go. So after looking at this for a little bit, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and kind of dry assemble this thing a little bit. I'm going to leave this out where I can get in here and paint, and then I'm just going to mask this. That right there will help me prevent from getting any paint up inside the body. We'll actually use the part itself to kind of mask that off, and we'll this nice surface here, we don't want any paint on that. That's kind of a machine surface that it slides on. I don't want any paint up here where I'm going to put my jaws, and on the end down here I want to kind of protect all that from getting painted. So I've just got some blue painter's tape, and we'll go ahead and start masking here. So I think we're all ready to paint this now. Before I do, I'm going to wipe it down with some mineral spirits just to kind of get all any grease or oil that I got on it from my hands. Let me grab a clean towel here and some mineral spirits. If there's any dust or left over from the sandblasting, this should take it off as well. We want to have a good prep surface to paint on so we get good binding all the way around. All right, that looks pretty good. So when we started the project, I was debating as to whether I was going to paint this or powder coat it, and ultimately I decided I wanted to paint it, mainly to get my color just right. I wanted to get just the right color for this, and my powder coat guys didn't have the color I was looking for. In fact, the color that I was looking for, I had to special order it. I called up, I like using Rust-Oleum, and I really wanted to go with a hammered paint on this. I think it really looked good. But I couldn't find online or anything the color I was wanting. So I actually called Rust-Oleum and came to find out the color I was looking for is a special order. They don't really stock it normally, but they actually have some and can send it out. But I decided to go with a nice pink. I wanted to, you know, old Brad Jacobs just got that really beautiful pink Wilton Vise that Tom Lipton sent him, and you know, I'm really envious of that and just really wanted to go with a pink color. So Rust-Oleum has a color, it's called masculine pink, but it's by special order only, and I was able to get that, and anyway, that's what we're going to go with because I think it's going to look cool. Masculine pink. What do you think, guys? So anyway, let's shoot some on there. Uh-oh. They must have sent the wrong paint because this is not pink. Dang, this looks like a kind of a greenish color. A neutral greenish color. Very similar to what this vise was probably painted originally. Darn, I really wanted pink. Dang. Oh well. Brad, sorry, I can't be like you. I've let the paint dry on this now for a couple of days. I actually had to go out of town and I did the painting right before I left. So this has been drying for, I guess, about a little over 2 days. So let's go ahead and pull the masking tape off where we masked everything up. All right, looking good. So the screw is going to go back up in here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a dry fit. I just want to see how this looks. We still got to make a new handle for the screw here. That goes in there, and this little collar comes around. I got some new screws for it. The old ones were just all rusted up. I'll grab a screwdriver. Looking good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the screw back out, and next step here is we've got to make a new handle. You know, I could probably salvage this one, but it's pitted pretty bad. It's got a lot of rust on it. It's pitted pretty bad, and I don't really like the way, I don't think I'd like the way it looks. So, and it's got a couple of bends in it. I want to give it a nice fresh look. So we're just gonna make a new one. So out to the museum, out to the lathe, and we'll knock that out. So I've cut a piece of stock here that I'm going to make my new handle out of. This is the original handle, and it measured 9/16 in diameter. I got me a piece of 4140 steel here. This is what some people call chrome moly. Real good alloy, has a lot of strength to it, so hopefully it'll hold up well as a handle. Cut it off to 10 inches long, which is the same as the original. And what we're going to do is we're just going to turn this down here on the end to 3/8 inch diameter. That's about 475 thousandths deep. We'll do that on both sides, and that's what will hold the little ball piece that we'll make separately and then put on there. So let's go ahead and get the main handle prepped for the balls. Start off by facing the back side of this. Get that saw cut off of it. So I want to machine down this depth here, which is about 475. I'm going to set my calipers, and I'll be putting a little witness mark on there so I know how deep to go. Turn this down at 375. We're starting out at 9/16. It'll take about 100 thousandths on this first pass. Go ahead and knock most of it off. Get a measurement. We're 100 thousandths from our mark. I'm going to take about 80 of that. Go to 375, so we're about 21 thousandths away from that mark. And I'm just going to do 20 thousandths, see where we're at. All right, right on the money. So the next parts we need to make are the little ball ends that go on the end of the handle, and this is basically just 3/4 inches in diameter. It's machined around to a radius around the outside. The center is just bored out to that 3/8 inch. One side is flat, that'll go up against the shoulder on that inside that we turned. And the other side has just got a little chamfer in it that we will actually peen over the end of that to kind of rivet it into place, and it'll just kind of fit into that little bit of a chamfer. So anyway, let's get ready and turn out a couple of these and we'll install them. So to make this out of, I got again a piece of chrome moly up here, some 4140 steel, same as we're making the handle out of, but it's a little bit bigger than what we need. This is just a piece of scrap that I had left over from another job, and I didn't really want to buy another piece. So anyway, that's 1 1/8 inch. So we're going to turn that down to 3/4, and we'll go ahead and machine those parts out of it. Start by putting a little center in here just to get the hole started. Doesn't need to be very deep, just a little dimple. I'm going for a 3/8 inch hole. I'm going to ream it to size, so I'm going just one size under here, and so we'll go ahead and drill this out. I'm going to slow it down a little bit for the reamer, and we'll run that in there, get it to size. All right, so this piece has got the hole in here that will basically press onto the end of the handle. I've got my length set. I know how deep. I measured, let me show you what I did. I took the, so what I did was I took my handle and I measured down, and then I took about 25 thousandths off of that, just to get me to the right depth. And then I set my parting tool to that depth. I wanted this to be about 25 thousandths shorter in length than the height of my shoulder, so I'll have enough metal to peen over the end. So that's all set. I got my parting tool set up here, but I want to start the parting, but I don't want to completely part it off because I've still got to machine that radius in there, but this will define the outside corners of the radius, and we'll come back and finish parting it in a minute. But we'll get it started for now. Let me speed the lathe back up. So I've changed out tools, and what I've put in here is this is just a little carbide radius tool, and it's got a radius ground down in there for doing a half round or something like that. And I've got it in here at a 45-degree angle so we can just plunge into that and hopefully form a nice radius across there. So let's give it a try. Well centered up. I'm judging that because it's cutting on both sides at the same time as I'm feeding in. Looks good. Now before parting it off, I want to put that little chamfer in the end to give that end of the stick a little room to kind of flow over in there, kind of a rivet head if you want to call it. The original doesn't have much of a chamfer, and we're going to follow suit here. That's maybe just a little bit more. I don't want to get carried away here. That's probably enough right there. Now we're going to come back in here and finish parting this off. I got my tool set back up. So there's my end. I purposely made this shaft just, it's a little tight, so it's going to be it's not just going to slide on there. I'm going to see if I can knock it on with this little lead hammer. I don't want to mar up the end down here, but I think it'll, yeah, it's going to go right on. And I'm going to have to put it over something to drive that last little bit. So there it is, installed more or less. We still need to peen the end over. We'll put that in the vise and go ahead and do that right now. So to peen this over, I'm just using a little ball peen hammer, and I got this in the vise, and we're just gonna work that in until it deforms down into that little countersink that I put in there, and it should be in place for good. So there we go. That gap is all filled in now. The top is peened over, and that little ball is on there to stay. Let's go ahead and make the ball for the other side. I'll do that off camera, and we'll finish this up. So we've got our second ball end ready to go on now. But before we install it, there's one important step. We need to make sure that we put the handle through the screw here, because we want to capture it all in place. Make sure I get this going on the right way, like such. And see if we can hit this one on the same way. So we got our new handle. It's all made, completely assembled now, put back together. It looks much better than the old rusty one. You know, I probably could have polished that up a little bit, but it's so pitted that I just don't think it would ever look good. So we made a new one. There you go. And it wasn't that hard to do. So we're just about ready to put this back together now. I want to make a couple of little comments. First off, I mentioned this when I took it apart, but if you look on the bottom of the vise here, in this keyway right here, there's a date. It's stamped. It says 446. And I did a little bit of research on that. Actually, a couple of my viewers commented on that and sent me some links to some websites. And you know, I think everybody pretty much has determined that is a date that on this vise of April of 1946. There is a little bit of a controversy out there as to whether that was the date that it was built or if that's the date that the warranty expired on these vices. So I've seen references to both. You know, what makes sense is that that would be the date that had been made, April 1946. But actually there's pretty good evidence out there that Wilton on these vices, particularly the earlier vices, that they were sold with a 5-year warranty, and when they stamped the date on there, that was the date that the warranty expired. And they basically stamped them, the vices, when they left the factory. And 5 years after that, the warranty would expire. So that was an easy way for them to be able to tell when it was made and when the warranty expired on it. If that's true, this vise would have been made in April of 1941. And according to some research I've done, Wilton actually went in business in 1941. So if that is true, this would have been one of the very first vices that was made by Wilton, you know, in 1941. So I'm not sure if it's 41 or 46 that this vise was made. Either way, it's an old one, and it's been around for a long time. Let's go ahead and start putting this together. So I've got my grease gun out, and I'm just going to put a little dab of grease on this, just to kind of help lubricate it and keep it moving in and out. You know, I don't want too thick of a coat where it gets gunked up, but you know, a little bit of lubrication is definitely not going to hurt it. So that's probably enough. Let me wipe my hand before I put it back on the vise. All right. Trying to keep the grease off of this. All right, and same goes here. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease on this screw. Let me just take my grease gun here and screw this in. Put our little retainer clip back on, and you know, I took that and just kind of polished it up on a Scotch-Brite wheel to clean it up a little bit, and it cleaned up very nicely, and it has a nice shine to it. And I'm going to be honest with you guys on this and the nut here, I took some clear coat and put on that just to kind of help protect it and hopefully keep it from rusting. So I'm sure it'll get scratched off eventually, but at least for the short term we can hopefully protect that a little bit. Get that contrasting color on here. All right, those are new screws. The old ones were just rusted up real bad, and I decided a little bit of, or some new screws were in order. And the final thing is to put the jaws on. And I did talk about, at the beginning of the video, about putting copper jaws in these. And after thinking it over, I have decided that no, I'm going to put the original hardened jaws back in here. And the only reason for that is I just feel like that I can put some soft jaws that I can just slip over these if I feel like I really need to have soft jaws. But there are definitely times when the hard jaws are a better option for you. So I'm just going to either make or buy some soft jaws to go on here. There's a little pin on these, and they kind of hold those in place, so I'm just tightening up the vise to clamp them up, and open it back up here, and we will take some screws and bolt these back down. So originally these had flathead screws in them. Again, they were pretty rusted up, and I'm just replacing them with some socket cap screws. They fit just right, and they're a little bit easier to take in and out than the flathead screw. Got those. All right, there she goes. She's all back together. So there's the completed project, all finished up. Hopefully you'll agree that it looks nice. And again, I'm amazed that this vise is in as good a shape as it is for the age that it is. It looks like it's hardly been used. You know, even before the restoration, other than just being rusty, it was in really good shape. So I'm real tickled with it. About the only apologies I think we have is, you know, there's a little bit of pitting on the screw down here. But, you know, hey, it looks nice right now. The plan is that we're going to put this vise back to work. So it's going to get some scuffs on it. It's going to get some wear marks on it. It's going to get some ding marks in it. That's fine. I'm not worried about a little bit of pitting in here. This is not going to be a museum piece. It's going back to work. So that'll be a wrap. One nicely restored Wilton Vise, ready to go back to work. So when I get my new shop built, which is in the process of being built right now, I'm gonna get me a good, strong, sturdy welder's table in there, and this vise will get mounted to that, and this is going to become my main vise that gets used in the shop. Again, you know, yes, it looks real pretty right now. It's almost a shame to put it to work, but tools were meant to be used, at least in my shop. I'm not a collector, I'm a user. So we're going to do just that. We're going to put this nice vise back to work. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you got a Wilton vise you want to restore, I think we've covered the basics. And if anyway, go fix yours up. And if not, enjoy this one. And we'll get it in the shop and installed pretty soon, hopefully. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.